Hey friends, welcome to Your Story Matters podcast. My name is Michaela, and I am so happy you're here. My hope for this show is that we experience the power of storytelling and understand that we are the main characters in our story so that we can live as our truly authentic selves. You're in the right place to hear real stories that will challenge, inspire, and encourage you on your personal growth journey. I hope you enjoy. Today on the show is Molly Trotter-Gomez. Molly, after 5 years as a CBS News anchor and reporter across the West Coast, she walked away from the media world to answer a higher calling, one rooted in truth, transformation, and purpose. Molly founded her on-camera confidence consulting company to help women discover their bold, authentic voice and show up powerfully in every room they enter. With a background in television and being an international speaker and coach, Molly brings the experience and credibility to serve leaders at every stage, from launching their voice to presenting on global platforms and inside Fortune 500 companies. In today's crowded marketplace, personal branding isn't optional. It's the key to standing out. The most powerful way to grow your influence, impact, and income is by mastering your message. That starts with a signature story and content that connects and converts. If you're ready to become the go-to voice in your space, Molly is someone you want to listen to bring your brand to life. Here's our conversation. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Your Story Matters podcast. I am so happy that you've taken time out of your day to spend it with me, and I am equally, if not more excited to spend time with Molly Trotter-Gomez, who I think we should just call this the Michaela and Molly show. Love alliteration, love the double M's. It's perfect. So coming to a streaming platform near you. We'll work out the details in post. But Molly, welcome to Your Story Matters. It's an honor to have you here.
I am so excited to be here. And I remember when I stumbled across you and your podcast, I was like, I have been saying this phrase forever. So we must connect because it really does. Your story really does matter. So I am so excited to be here today.
Yes, we're going to talk all about stories, personal, professional, and kind of how we get to tell them and what avenues we use to do that, because there are a myriad, as we will learn. But first, we always ask the big overarching question, Molly, what is your story?
Well, I always start with long story short because we don't have all day, but I always love to start with, my professional start in my career. I was a news anchor and reporter, and I always start with that because it's kind of like, oh, like, why did you get into that? Like, what was it? It was one of those where I was like, literally, it looked fun. And in my high school, they had a news broadcasting setup that you could do every morning. And I was like, no one does this. And this seems fun. And I get to go talk to people, be a voice for people, share stories that matter. So worked my buns off to get into the news industry to find out, wow, these are the stories that they want to tell all the time. Doom, gloom, death, and destruction. So I realized a couple years in, I was like, this isn't going to be forever, but I have no idea what I'm going to do next. Well, as I was just going down the path, I was like, let me take advantage of every opportunity, even got some stints on ESPN, anchor desk, reporting, editing, all of it. So I learned a lot of really great skill sets. And then I eventually got out of the news industry. Truth be told, I ended up getting fired because I started to really develop my own voice and wanted to help people grow personally and professionally, and then take a little deeper dive on just stewarding their health. And they didn't like that. And they essentially fired me over it. And I was like, all right, well, I guess this is my out. I'm out of here. Because if you start pushing against the regime and the agenda, they're like, you don't fit, you need to go, which I needed to go. So that started me on my entrepreneurship journey. I realized I never wanted to actually work for anybody else ever again. I wanted to just carve my own path. So got into areas like network marketing. Network marketing taught me a lot of leadership, a lot of really great sales skills, had great mentorship there. That led me into digital marketing, where I started helping in a digital marketing agency, which is now my brother-in-law. He wasn't then, but he is now. Was helping coaches build and scale, doing marketing. And then the light bulb hit. And I was like, well, wait a second. I have a skill set that everybody needs. And that's becoming a more impactful communicator. When you're in the news, you're gathering hours of information, and then you have 15, 30, maybe up to 90 seconds to share it. So you have to really shave it down to give them the goods and then be able to move on with your life. So I started helping people do that. And then it was just like the floodgates opened. People were like, I need this. I need to know how to share my story. And it was a beautiful thing until that chapter closed for a little bit. And I actually stepped into a corporate role, opening up and owning a company that was a faith-based membership that really helped people personally and professionally. And that was huge. It was massive. It was so much fun. Learned a lot. And then that door closed. So notice these doors closing, everyone. Everybody's thinking like, we got to have this thing for a while, but I truly believe that God will open up doors, close doors whenever you need them. We have to shut them and we're moving on to the next thing. And that's literally been my life, like open and close, open and close, open hands. Where do I go next? So when I rebirthed Signature Story Consulting of really diving back into why your story matters, I like to call it pulling out the gold in people of there's stuff that is in there that you probably don't even know that has just been compounding for a long time. But that is the strategy. You have to share that. You get to share that in order for people to know what you're doing, the impact you want to create, the mission, the movement, the business. And I've been doing this type of work for well over a decade. But the passion I have is seeing the light bulbs go off, the emotions come out, and even a lot of healing, which I'm sure you could probably even speak to that too, of like when people are actually start sharing, it's not even really for you. You get a lot out of it, but it's for the people around you that really need to get the hope, the light, the message, the process of you're not alone. So that's a very condensed version in a sense of where I've been to where I am now and, just what I love to help people pull out to be able to share.
That's so good. I want to jump back into all the open doors, closed doors. It's something that I struggle with as far as like, what door do you walk through? But also just I love hearing people again, no story is linear, right? And so there is this, wow, you only see the highlight reel of what they choose to share of like, here are all the mountaintop moments, but kind of not many people get to see the valley. And it's a personal choice if you want to, share that with the world. But how do you reconcile all of these adventures with closed doors? Kind of like, what's the thought process? What's the feeling of, wow, something ended, I get to do something else. I'm kind of at war with it's exciting and daunting. So share how your perspective is on that.
Totally. Warring and daunting. Absolutely. And then, I had somebody recently because I recently had a closed door. That was a big closed door. Didn't see it coming. This person even asked me, like, do you feel like any betrayal? Do you harbor any resentment? Like, and real questions. And I literally just met this person, but look, when you just know somebody or you just have that feeling, you're like, I'm just going to ask. And so when they asked it, I'm like, that is a very good question. The old me, maybe a couple years ago, probably would have been like, oh my gosh, I poured in all this time. I gave it all that I have. And then this happens. When really, I always believe that, doors will open and close. And you just have to be, again, with open hands of clearly that was supposed to be done with. What do I want to take from that? What do I need to leave from that? I'm a big person of faith. So I'm like, Lord, who do I need to leave behind? Where, some relationships are just even for a season. Like, what does that look like? Because I don't want to carry any weight into the next season that I don't have to. Things are weighty enough. So it's a battle of this is for me. It's not against me. What can I look forward to rather than what I just lost? That's really like I had to work through that a lot from all the open and closed doors. But now it's so much easier of like, okay, clearly that's over. So there must be something way better in the future because you're not going to leave something behind if the door closes for something worse ahead. I truly don't believe that.
No, and you always hear the phrase, the best is yet to come. And I kind of cling on to that wholeheartedly. And also living with open hands because there is just so much we cannot control, right? About relationships and business and entrepreneurship and kind of everything. We're really entering into like a tidal wave here of just there are so many unknowns that we're trying to like keep the boat afloat most of the time. And I'm really big on seasons, so is this podcast. And I think this quote was from Annie F. Downs, but she was quoting somebody else where they said, how you end one season affects how you start the next one.
It's good.
How have you seen that kind of show up with, again, it's all the perspective, right? Of I get to look forward to something else that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do had this door remained open.
I think especially since recently going through that, I helped build and co-found this global membership. And recently that door closed with a couple months ago. Never saw that coming at all. Nobody did. And it was hard to walk away only because all the time invested, the relationships built. And I think the hardest part was, the relationships, some of them getting a little rattled. And things not being the same because I'm such a human connector and we are relational beings. And so that's the hardest part. And when you put your hands to something, you just have to know that, there's going to be times with it without you. And so, I'm even trying to recall what was your question again? Cause I just squirreled off and I forgot.
Gosh. How you end one season affects how you start the other.
Yes. So what I was saying earlier was the perspective on, okay, that's closing. There must be something better ahead. The old me used to really latch on to like, well, it was a lot of pride and ego, to be honest with you. It was like, well, they can't do it the same without me. That's not going to be able to look like this. That's not going to be able to look like that. And then some people, I mean, this is just being brutally honest. Some people are like, well, deep down, I hope that it doesn't explode without me because, that wouldn't be fair. But this time around, the upgraded version, the more mature version of me is like, I hope that thing takes off to the moon. I hope everybody does exceedingly and abundantly more. I hope and I pray that this is just amazing, and maybe I was a piece that had to be let go so they can take off, or vice versa. I had to let that go in order for me to take off. So it just really is a perspective shift that has really launched me into this next season. But then also not just sitting there camping on, well, I wonder what they're doing. And I wonder what this and I wonder what that, and being stuck in the past. Because I worked with these people and we were basically like family for 5 years in the trenches together. So it really is. You just have to let go, focus on what's ahead and not look behind and really just charge towards it with everything that you have.
That's good. I would love to go back to the very beginning and give me some secrets that the viewers at home don't get on the day to day of news anchorship. You said you have like 30, 60, 90 seconds to kind of like tell a
Right.
story and make sure you've done your vocal warm ups of like being able to say sentences right. I can only imagine. Give me a secret or two as far as what we don't see that you guys do.
Oh my gosh, that is a great question. I don't feel like I've been asked that in a very, very long time because most people kind of skip over that piece. And it actually, out of all the courses I've ever made, I have one that's called the signature soundbite method, and it is my favorite. And it's only my favorite because I know it's the most impactful. People talk way too much. And when I got into the news, I mean, I came straight out of college. And as a female, I talk a lot. We all do for the most part. Let's be real with ourselves.
Yep.
So having
Yep.
to peel that back, having to have editors just chop, 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 chop it down, there is so much that you tend to take personally that you just can't. And I call it, you have to get this like
Mm.
thick rhino skin. The story isn't
Yeah.
about you. Just because you think it should be this way and be said this way, but somebody else has different eyes and ears, they're not coming in to criticize. I look at it as they're coming in to give feedback of this is going to be best received and get the best type of information out there. Now, one of the things that I pushed back on, which I know probably led to my firing, was there were times in the news where my news director would draw me into his office and he would say, hey, how you wrote the story, it's good, but we want to add this. And I would say, that's not what happened. He's like, well, that's what we want. And I said, no. I eventually just
Mm.
started saying no, turned around, walked out. Well, they didn't like that because I wasn't bending to their will. That was my reputation. That is my integrity. I'm not doing that just so you can get a few extra viewers. I'm like, this is crazy. So there's a lot that you have to go through personally and understanding who you are, because in the news industry, so many people just bow down to the king, who are the people who are own the station, and whether they're going to fire you or not. And I just realized one day, I'm like, when I got fired, it was the biggest blessing because money was terrible. The time off you have is terrible. And when I thought about my future family having kids, what future family? Because this thing, this entity really owns you. So you are using their voice and what they want you to use it for. And you're just a face and a puppet. And so there's so much behind the scenes that takes place. And even when I watch the news now, I usually don't really listen to the story. I listen to and look at the body language, and I'm just like, you're just there to collect the check, like you really don't care. But what's
Mm.
beautiful is social media as it was rising up when I was in the news, Facebook Live, Periscope, like all these different live capabilities. I was like, wait a second, we could all be our own news station and actually share things that matter. And seeing so many people do that. And there's, some that are not doing it for good, many that are. It's beautiful to watch this thing unfold. And I'm just helping more voices rise up, the right ones, the ones that need to speak. They get out from under the thumb of, am I worthy? Will people care? What do I do? What do I say? Everybody has something that is valuable to say for the most part. And we want more of those
Absolutely.
voices.
Absolutely. And I had written this question down, so forgive me, I'm looking at my notes here. How do we tell our story in a way that is true to us in a world that's struggling with authenticity?
How do we tell our story in a way that is true to us in a world that is struggling with authenticity? It really just comes back to knowing what your voice even sounds like. And that takes work. That takes work. I remember when I first started, as an example, trying to find my voice, I would find people I liked what they said, and then I would copy it, put in my own words, and I started to just kind of develop, like, I like where they're going with this. How can I insert my own experiences? How can I insert my own voice and really just start to be like, what does that even sound like? And so a lot of people will either just copy or paste, or I like this, so I'm just going to exactly copy it. You need to discover what is that. So you just have to start talking, whether that's on video, whether that's written, like what are your actual thoughts? What kind of value do you come across that you see that you like? Start speaking in that manner and your voice will refine itself over time. I used to have and I still do, but like, it's like this professional, like everything, have it all together until I was like, that was like the news anchor in me. And I was like, pull back the curtain a little bit. Show how quirky you are, how dorky you and your husband are, the little like weird dance breaks you have in between calls and just being a weirdo. Like, show people these weird things to be relatable because that also plays into it as well. So I'm not sure if that really answers your question, but quit being so afraid of what other people are going to think. They just want to know the real you. Some people will exit the scene because they don't like it. That's more than okay. But more people will be like, there she is, or there he is. I want more of that.
Yeah, there's something about not following a trend for the sake of a trend. But again, how do these things on TikTok and other social media platforms, like how can you take them and make them your own? Which
Yes.
I have struggled with that numerous times. My background is in musical theater. And so for many, many years, it was always telling somebody else's story, right? Whether through song or spoken word or dance, solo with a duo, a collective thing. And college really did a number on me mentally of I don't know who I am anymore, right? You get so wrapped up and you have to be all these things for everybody else and you kind of get swallowed in the weeds. So kind of what are some tips of, yes, just going on a Facebook Live or doing more practice can help you find your voice. But I think I want to switch that perspective to a little bit more of messaging. And this kind of gets into marketing and the whole bit of signature story, but kind of gearing up into that. How do we know that we have something to say? That
I
it's
love
just
this.
beyond what people tell us we should say.
It's so true, that last part. So many people would love to tell you what to say, whether it's school, whether it's the government, whether it's your parents, whether it's the people that have been around you that want to speak into you. There's a level of we want everybody to kind of stay the same. And the ones that break out, it's like, what are you doing? There needs to be more breakout moments. And what you can discover what you say. This is an exercise that I actually walk all my clients through. So like write this down, super easy to do. And it takes your brain, like this spaghetti bowl brain that you have with all these noodles. It looks like a hot mess. It's like we're going to take out noodle by noodle to make some sense of this thing. So I call it my 3-pillar exercise, where you find 3 themes. So these are the themes that people are coming to your page for. One of those being business. So for example, say if your 3 themes are empowerment, time freedom, which is the business one, at least for me, and then mindset. Say those 3 themes. Now you have another column, and I put this in a spreadsheet of topics. Go through those themes, spend 5-10 minutes and brain dump in the themes of time freedom, mindset, empowerment. What can you talk about? These are themes that you like, right? That describe you. Brain dump on what you can talk about. And then the 3rd column is give 2 to 3 bullet points, depending on how wordy you are, how lengthy you are. You have the theme, then you have your topics. You pick one topic, write 2 to 3 bullet points down. Now you just turn this really messy bowl of spaghetti into something that is structured. And you spend, say on this whole exercise, you spend maybe 30 minutes. I've seen people have 50, 60, 80 topics in that. And you're looking at that being like, wow, that was in there. That was in there. Do this once a quarter. And here's the cool part. By the time you get through all of that, you're going to see, wow, I can talk about all these things. This is incredible. You could go back and do it all over again when you're done, and you probably have extras that you have added in there. So it's this evergreen, constant, here are the different things I can talk about, because we try to think of it all at once and our brain like short circuits and we're like, I don't have anything. That's a lie. You just have to take the time to write it out. And then when you have this spreadsheet here, or however you want to put it together, you're just like, wow. Like I look at mine, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, and I've had it for years. It just keeps growing and growing and growing. And it's like this light bulb moment of I really do have something to say. There's things that need to come out. I just need to structure it a little bit more.
Yeah, and structure for creatives is like great, but also terrifying because it's like, how dare you put constraints on me? But what I've learned is like when so certain people just need parameters all the time and feel very safe in those. And others, it's kind of like when you're bowling, right? You can just bowl, it can go in the gutter, you can get a strike, whatever. But it's kind of easy to me to put those parameters. There's a little bit more focus, right? The ball doesn't go swervy. down the lane or whatever the heck it's called, it has a better shot at the target, at the goal, at the bowling pins. Apparently, I just really love bowling. So, reverse sponsored by Bowling Everywhere, which I love that. It's such a great thing of like, we do have more that we can say. And you do not have to be knowledgeable about everything because, number one, we don't have the time, the capacity, or the energy to care, right? Like, pick a couple things that really mean something to you as you make this list and keep going. And I think as you're saying, like, you will surprise yourself with what is in there. So then how do we go about, once this list is kind of created, we get to see the brain dump in this beautiful organized fashion. How do we start going about creating this messaging of, here's what I can say? You know, for the shy people that maybe are not super camera friendly, or the wordy people like me who love a good journal entry or write up, how do we just now get her story out into the world?
You know, I just tell people you got to rip off that Band-Aid. And so when I have people go through this exercise, I then say, okay, now typically with my clients, we go through it. And then I say, I need 2 pieces of content, primarily video. You could have it written and it needs to be under 60 seconds. And then they're just like, well, how do I do that? Well, you never know until you try. You never know until you try. People don't even try, but then it's like, if you are going to hold them accountable and it's like, I need this by the next time that we meet, it's not for me. Like, you're going to send it to me so I can give feedback and, good job and like it, engagement, all of that. It's for you to rip off that Band-Aid, quit thinking about how perfect you need to make it, quit thinking about all the things that, oh, I got to have all these things. Lighting, yes, matters. Clear audio matters. You want to even be presentable so you feel good and you have that extra boost of confidence. But sometimes some of my best videos are like, I'm literally right after the gym, no makeup on with a white hat. And I'm like, okay, we're pressing record. This is something. So you just rip it off and you go do it. Because otherwise you are going to have those moments of, I should have. And imagine, you've probably been feeling this for a while, that you've been needing to do something like this. Imagine if you started 2 years ago when you got that nudge, how much further along you would be. Well, it's not to like shame you. You should have started then. It's start now, because 2 years from now, you'll be glad that you did. Like, now is the perfect time, but we just keep getting in our own heads. Like, do the exercise, go do the content, put it out there. You'll start hearing and listening to your own voice and refining it. Other ideas will pop up, but you just have to get the ball rolling. And even for people who've done this for a while, like systems, I know for creatives, like you said, it's kind of like, ugh, I hate it. But to be honest, systems like really are going to support the creativity that you have. It's going to give you the extra support that you need, because your brain can only handle so much. And it's very healthy to brain dump and get things out so you can make room for new.
Oh, that's right. Make new for new. If you think these first 50 topics are great, come back in 6 months, we'll get a new 50.
Yes.
And look at the progress. So we have hinted into signature story here before. So tell me about the conception of the idea, and kind of then just birthing this whole concept of really walking a lot of people through. Here is how you get to tell your story in a personal, professional, business-like way.
Yes. Well, most people hear signature story, they think it's for those who just want to be on a stage. And yes, it can be that. It can be if you want to put a talk together that you're going to do on a stage. Most people don't want to be on stages, but most people are also on social media. That is a stage. It's a virtual stage. And I highly recommend people, if you have a business, a mission, a movement of any kind, and you don't have a podcast, that's another stage that you need to create. That's just another medium to get information out there with a different viewership and listenership. And you can be a little bit more longer winded and give them more details. So the signature story just really came out of, when you think of people like Tony Robbins and great speakers, they have signature stories that we recognize. They say all the time. Honestly, they're stories that Tony Robbins has been saying for decades. He's probably tired of it already. Like, oh my gosh, I have to say this again. But he knows that's what people need. And he's recognized by that. It resonates with that. That's what I help people create. So they're like, oh, I heard that phrase, or I heard that thing. That must be her story or his story. So you have to repeat it over and over and over. So your signature story should be something that is repeatable, something that is memorable, something that is going to really speak to the audience you want to speak to. Who is that? What are their needs? And as we walk people through this, we start with one, which typically is the brand story, but then from there are multiple signature stories people have. Is it like a mindset, for, disciplines that you have, or is it a health journey win that you had, or there's so many different avenues and parts to us. So we have to start with one and then we can expand. But most people are terrified to go there because they're like, well, I have to really think about this. I have to really know that I know why I'm doing this, who I'm serving. And it's mind-boggling to me how many people will jump to making a business. They don't have a story and they wonder why their business isn't like doing anything or flourishing. Is because there's zero connection. You have to build that emotional bridge from your story to your brand to your business and have it all be cohesive. So I've started and scaled multiple different businesses. So I've done this personally. I've walked thousands of people through my what I call my story framework. Story is an acronym to really be able to pull that out. And then from there, I've seen a lot of, you can call them almost like, in a sense, non-scale victories, non-business victories, but confidence when people walk into a room, how they posture themselves, how they now see themselves, what they think about themselves. Like those things are even far more important than any business because you are with those thoughts way more than you are when it comes to your business. So it's amazing to be able to see that. And I just want to help people get set free and take their movement, mission, business, whatever they have, and steward it well with a great story so like more people can see it rather than just this being this best kept secret that's collecting dust on a shelf.
We hate dust. We hate it for the allergies. We hate it for progress.
We do. Get it out of here. Doesn't help the body at all.
No, 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 no. In all of the stories that you have helped walk through and coach and kind of mold, how have you seen your own story change in the process of getting to help and witness all of these other stories also being shaped and changed?
It's a great question. I would say, when I first started, it was like, okay, well, let me help you scale your business. Let me help you scale your business with this story, right? It was all business related because to be honest, it's low hanging fruit. Everybody wants that. Super low hanging fruit. As I have expanded in this area, it has become less about the business, more about the healing journey because your business can only grow at the extent that you are willing to heal. And when you get to the root of the story, a lot of like childhood stuff ends up coming up and people are like, is this normal? Like, why are we even talking about this? It is normal. And like, I'm no therapist by any means, but I have facilitated a lot of these conversations and I've just become like, okay, how can I steward that more? What questions do I need to ask? How can I keep tapping on that to really pull out for them to actually see it? And that is the beautiful part. And a lot of what people do is there's a lot of, when we work, especially in the one-on-one setting, there's a lot of brain dumping and just blah, like you just feel like you're just talking a whole lot. People usually are like, sorry, I'm talking a lot. But I'm like, this is how it's designed. You probably don't get to share this with like anyone. And then I'm asking the questions to pull and there's healing. They're being heard. They understand that it's valuable, that it's worthy. So there's all these lies that get broken off and healing that gets to take place. And so that has drastically changed in the way that I approach it and how I create more space for people and really what they need. They may not think of it. Because if I were to brand this like, come on your story healing journey, far less people would be like, sign me up. They're like, no, that sounds hard. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But come
Yeah.
in so we can expand your business, your vision, your mission. I'm in. And then it's almost like a back door of like, I'm inviting you into this healing journey because we have to go there. Otherwise, you're going to keep repeating the same results, which is just crazy.
That is so good and so helpful. And I think that if that speaks to me, if it speaks to anyone, which is awesome. So, my gosh, let me sit with that. Your business is only, say that quote again. I have to write it down.
Your business can only grow at the extent that you are willing to heal. I know it's meaty. I mean, when you chew on that, you're like, okay, the question is from there, what do I need to heal? And allow whatever needs to come up. Create space for that. That is I would honestly say that would be an income producing activity because if you don't, then you're just going to keep building on a fractured foundation, keep getting the same results, and gold is leaking through those fractures when we need to seal it up and let that gold come out.
I have never quite heard of it that way. And I've been able to talk to a lot of people on this podcast, but how business is so intertwined with healing. Like you're talking and I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of things from even college that is coming through as far as like why stories have been muted or not told that they're important. And then you kind of live that in your adult life and you get into your 30s and you're like, you feel like you should be so much farther along, or there seems to be like some kind of momentum that's just not happening, right? For a myriad of reasons. And I remember even talking to my counselor and it's like, this has been a very interesting 5-year journey just professionally for me. And she's like, it might not be happening because there might be an ingredient that we haven't found yet to like add to the mix. Right. And so I think it is. And again, no one says like, oh, I have more healing to do. Right. Because we're always doing that. We're always growing. Like, yes, there are certain things that you heal from that like you can not necessarily put to the side, but it's not in the forefront anymore. Like you can put that essentially to the side. And to kind of focus on more things. It's almost just like a revolving door of emotions. Ugh, we love it. But that is just so healing for me just to hear this and start thinking and like writing down. It's like, my word. Everything is on the other side of healing, right? But until we start opening up, we're never going to know what's in there versus what people have just said to keep kind of buried or whatever. So this is enlightening and just beautiful.
And you know what? And I'm going to share this, and this is not going to be the typical like podcast PC answer, but this is the truth. When you have suppressed something that you've needed to heal, you've kind of like put a band-aid on it, but now you got to open up that wound, and that's going to hurt. You have to understand that that's going to happen. But the only way for this thing to actually really heal is to open it back up, to really address it so we can stitch it properly. And I actually use this as an example. You can see I have a scar on my forehead here because I cracked my head open on a corner of a wall when I was 7. And I tell people, in the midst of me cracking my head open, I couldn't do anything because it was a mess and I had to go to the emergency room and get stitches. But now I
Yeah.
speak from a scar, not a wound, because the accident that took place and the craziness that I was doing in order to get this wound, but I was able to learn from my mistake, but then heal it, not just brush over it like it didn't matter. So many of us suppress so many things that actually matter, but we have to be willing to go there, open it back up so it can heal properly. And now it can be a scar and you can speak from that scar and it is sealed, it is solidified. You don't have to go back to it. But when you see it, you remember, but then you could be proud of yourself of the healing that you did and how you went there. Most people don't. But when you do that, you just get this resilience, you get this extra courage, this power, this boldness, and people need to see that. That right now is the light that so many people need to see when this world is obviously very dark.
Absolutely. It's going to take all of us coming together to do that very, very thing. What is it like getting to speak all over the world? It sounds like a dream, and it probably is. But what do you do when you wake up mornings where it's like, I got to catch a flight here, I'm going here, and I get to share this? What? Walk me through the hole in your brain. Like, what is going on in Molly's head?
Would say the first word that comes to mind, and this is a word that's made up, nervited, right? Nervous and excited, but it's really the same feeling because you know
Yeah.
the weight of I'm going to take this message, I'm going to go share it with other people, trying to shift the perspectives they are trying to just give opportunity to for people to open and change if they want to, and how to leave people better than when they found them. So there is a weight there and there's an excitement there, but it's like once you're on stage, you get going, you might be sweating a little, you're like, okay, but then you just get in a flow because I know a lot of what it is I say, I've prepared for it, but I also let the Holy Spirit just flow right through me to speak. I've learned how to do that. And it's a lot of letting go and just whatever message needs to come out because it's not about me. It's about what does the audience need and understanding those needs and doing your best to meet those needs. Not look at me, I can do this. It's just I'm a vessel to be able to bring change to those who are ready and they have that soil that's ready so I can plant the seed and then their thoughts are the water to that seed and eventually a harvest of some sort will come.
That's so good. What in your experience does it take to be a good communicator? It's so important, but what are we missing? Or what have we not fully grasped, even just in day-to-day conversations and then taking it as public as a stage or even a news anchor?
You know, that is a great question. I think what we talked about healing, that's a huge part of it. Many don't want to go there. Many speakers will just rely on their natural talent and just kind of nurture that talent, but they need to go deeper.
That's good. So is there anything else about signature story or just the concept of communicating and realizing that your story matters, right? Like it doesn't need to be as big and loud as a podcast or anything like that, but any other wisdom to share? Because this has just been phenomenal.
Yes, it's so true. Like so many people think the story is a big deal, which it is because people need to hear you. But we're thinking of the best speaker that we have ever heard in the entire world, and we're comparing ourselves to the tippy top 1%. You just have to get started. And what you went through a week ago, a year ago, 10 years ago can be mentorship and guidance and hope for somebody else of how you've overcome that. That's the beautiful side of it. So just get started, start talking, and you'll see things just start to unlock in yourself that you never really even realized were there. And it's going to be a beautiful process for you, for other people who are meant to hear your story. So your story really, truly is meant to be mentorship to somebody else. It's a quote that I came up with a long time ago that just was pressed on my heart that I share because people don't even realize that they have that inside of them. So it's vital. It's vital for you to start sharing. It is healing. It is hope-filled, and people need to hear it. So that is what I would love to leave them with. And Michaela, thank you so much for having me on this show. I love what you're doing. I love how you really understand that your voice matters. And there's so many different aspects to it. So I hope today people got some different type of perspective and value to take so they can just move forward confidently in sharing their voice.
I know I did. I hope others did. But if this was just for me, well worth it. Because again, it's all about perspective, right? I could share one avenue until I'm blue in the face. And that's why this whole podcast exists, right? Because there was a moment in time, probably over 10 years ago, where I just didn't feel like my story mattered. And to be able to give others a platform, right? Because again, we do to others what we wish would have been helpful or done to us. And I say that with a grain of salt, but just knowing that other stories matter equally to mine, right? There is no hierarchy to this. We are all existing on the same playing field, and different experiences provide different perspectives in everything. So it's just so important for me to connect with people like this. I absolutely love it. It's the joy of my life to do. I walk away from every single episode just like, holy moly, I got to connect with this individual. And I'm just floored and flabbergasted. Last question before we hit the road here is, what's the next chapter for Molly? How do you see your story unfolding?
Gosh, it's, one of the things that has drastically changed for me is, I'm all about the one. Like you could have like all the systems, which I do plan on putting some awesome systems in place to be able to reach more people, membership, mastermind, so many different ways to reach people. But my heart is always about the one. Like, everybody's just so fixated on how many and the numbers. If you can change one person's life, one story at a time, one post at a time, one podcast at a time, one speaking event at a time, it is worth it. And so many people skip the one and they want the 1,000, the 100, the 1 million. And so that is a big, big thing for me. And so that puts a lot of things in perspectives and it really keeps me humble. But of course, your girl has some very big visions of, how can we serve and really partner with other people. I love creating referral partners of people who have other different types of programs, organizations that know that their people need this type of training. I definitely in the future want to get into the corporate space because of how dry it is. It drives me insane. And I'm like, can we just like put some good stuff in there that actually will connect with people and quit doing the same old same? But it takes people who are pioneers that want to like venture out and try something different. So it's me knocking on those doors being like, here's the pioneer. Are you ready? And just keep knocking until people are ready, because I know the training that I have and then how I can duplicate that into other people and help them pull it out. It is only going to have a ripple effect of good, hope, and light in the world. And that is what I'm after.
Excellent. And we need it. So Molly, your story matters so much. Thank you for your time today. It's so important to be reminded about perspective and hope and vision and clarity and just getting out there and doing it, because no one will tell your story better than you can.
Thanks for listening. I invite you to subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen, give it a rating, and review while you're at it. It really goes a long way. And check out the show notes for all the ways to stay connected with me and our guests. Until the next episode.